Hi everybody, I'm Tom Hafer, the host of the Parish Podcast, and welcome to this edition. The Parish Podcast is available in audio-only form on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you find podcasts. Hello again, and welcome to the Parish Podcast. It is a production of the Communications and Media Department here at the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. Today our guest is Wes Crain. He is the Director of the Division of Planning and Development, and today's topics are property condemnations and adjudicated property. Wes, thanks for being with us, and we appreciate you being on the Parish Podcast.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Let's talk first of all about the Parish Podcast. You do realize this is a government jargon and acronym-free podcast. So if you slip and go into a little bit of jargon there, or particularly if you use an acronym that's strictly government-related, we can throw a 5-yard penalty flag and penalize you for that. It doesn't happen very often, and we have been told by the police jury that FEMA is an acceptable acronym.
Oh, good.
Yes, that helps. You don't have to say the Federal Emergency Management Agency. You can say FEMA if we need to.
Because I might forget it.
That's right. Let's get into condemnations. It's been a big topic here, particularly since the hurricanes. Property gets into disrepair and needs to be taken care of. What is the process? What are condemnations, and how do we deal with them?
Let me just kind of first begin and say that there are a lot of condemnable properties out in the unincorporated areas at this time, since the hurricanes.
Correct, yes.
A lot of property has been damaged, and it's been sort of strange to see that a lot of homes have been just abandoned.
Right.
People have just moved away and left these homes in disrepair and really have not either demolished them or tried to repair them. Right. And I think probably what has happened is a lot of those property owners didn't have the appropriate insurance or and they just left.
Yeah.
And so that's really kind of what we're dealing with, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
I checked with my staff that deals with these condemnations on a daily basis, and it looks like that we've got about over 600 cases that are open right now. And keep in mind, most of those cases, they're either coming to us through a complaint, either through our police jurors or a citizen or whoever. Most of the time, we're not out there just looking for them. However, I do tell my staff, if you see one that's pretty obvious, let's go ahead and post it unsafe and let's get it started, get the process started. But that's a lot of cases. And I'm gonna tell you, I've ridden around the parish, there's a lot that are still out there that we're eventually gonna have to address.
So after the hurricanes and the other disasters, we basically we weren't doing condemnations for a while, basically
that's right.
in deference to the homeowners and the property owners to give them the opportunities to go ahead and take care of this.
Yeah, and really I was kind of looking through that a little bit and seeing what those timelines were on the hurricanes, and then we had, of course, the freeze, and then we had another flood. And so the police jury, they basically put our code enforcement on hold for a bit of time. Actually, it was a little over a year.
Yeah.
And then probably in 2022 is when we started picking back up on code enforcement and really pursuing those cases, not only condemnations but other violations and things too. So, but it's been a challenge.
So we had all of these hurricane damaged homes, and we didn't take action on them for a long time.
That's correct.
But in the meantime, over the course of normal time, we would have other condemnable properties that would occur for other reasons. They weren't getting taken care of either, so they really stacked up.
Yeah, and we really, like you said, we had other cases that we were working prior to those disasters and everything, and they just got put on hold until we started picking them back up. And again, we were during that period of time that we weren't doing the code enforcement, we understood people were trying to get themselves back on their feet and trying to get going, and we were very sensitive to that. But at some point, what was happening is the next door neighbor may have fixed his property up and the other property was not, and they were calling us wanting to know how come this property is not being taken care of. And so, it just we tried to hold off as long as we could. So
these condemnations are based on the ordinances that have been passed by the police jury. Talk about those ordinances. What did they say, and how long have they been in effect? And they are basically the guiding principles, right?
Yeah. The condemnation ordinance, that ordinance has been in effect for quite some time. Probably back in the early '80s, that they started doing that. And of course, it's been amended over some time, just to kind of get it up to date. We still use our standard housing code as one of our ordinances that we go and post structures unsafe. Now that the building codes are in place, the state, made all the municipalities and governing authorities, adopt the building codes, and so we also use those codes to help us enforce that too. So, but yeah, these condemnation orders, they've been in effect a long time. There's a process, we get a complaint. Once we get that complaint, we go out, do an investigation. Our inspectors do that and make sure we have a checklist that we use to check off, what's either damage to the structure, if it's open to the public, the windows are busted out, or anything like that makes it unsafe according to the code. And if it does, we'll post it unsafe. And then we started a process years ago when I first came to the parish. It's basically, we call it a pre-condemn letter. It's almost a courtesy letter. And we send it to those property owners that are listed in the tax roll. And we see if we get a response from them. And we give them 15 days to respond to us. And we've been very successful in doing that, because we have a lot of out-of-state property owners that may not realize that those structures are in disrepair. And they'll either contact us and come in and get a permit, or they'll say, hey, we're just going to demo it. And they'll get a demolition permit, and they'll have somebody demo it. And then we save the taxpayer some money. So that's been very successful. However, if not, then we will go through our normal process. We place these cases. We try to do it about 20 at a time now. It used to be, it ranges anywhere from 15 to 20 at a time. We get permission from the police jury at a police jury meeting, getting authorization to officially notify those property owners. And then we go through that process, notify them, give them so many days to do that. And then again, we set a public hearing. Right. And then the public hearing aspect of that, the home or the property owner has to come to that meeting and show why the structure should not be condemned. Right. Now, a lot of times we get people up here and they don't know. They want to get it repaired, but they're supposed to show why the structure should not be condemned. Or the police jury does have the option of allowing them to repair it if it is repairable. Right. And they have to give us a list of those repairs that are necessary by a contractor, and if the police jury allows them to do that, then we'll issue a permit for them to go through that process and get it repaired. So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
This is the
I'm
Parish.
Just talking on.
No, you're great. The fewer questions I have to ask, the better the podcast is on a typical basis. This is the Parish Podcast. It is a production of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury Communications and Media Department. I'm Tom Hafer, the host. Wes Crain is our guest. He is the director of the Division of Planning and Development. Wes, tell us about yourself just a little bit, and how long you've been here at the police jury, and your background just a bit.
So, Tom, I moved to Lake Charles in 1990. My wife is from here. When I moved here, I started working at the city of Lake Charles. I actually graduated from LSU in landscape architecture in 1988. And I worked in the private sector for that period of time in landscape architecture firms in West Palm Beach and in Memphis, Tennessee. And I moved to Lake Charles, got a job at the city of Lake Charles in their planning department, administering their zoning ordinance and doing, enforcement and things like that. Did that for a while, for about 5 or 6 years. And I became acquainted with Jimmy Vickers. Jimmy was the director of planning here for 34 years.
Just passed away. Great guy.
Just passed away. Great guy. And so I became acquainted with him, and we talked a lot, and
spoke the same language.
Spoke the same language,
Yep.
And so it just so happened there was a gentleman here that was working in the planning department. He was their code enforcement officer, and he was retiring. Jimmy said, "You might want to apply and come work for the parish." I said, "I don't know, Jimmy. Maybe so." And so I did, and I became a part of the planning department with the police jury, and was really kind of the code enforcement officer, running the roads around here, learning and doing the things that we're talking about today. Yeah. I also helped Jimmy, with planning because of my background. Right. I helped him on zoning cases, land use cases, and it just it's been a great career for me. I've been here for, 27 years, something like that. I've really enjoyed working for the police jury. Didn't realize I'd be working in a governmental agency, as a landscape architect. Normally you're out, in the private sector drawing plans and things like that. So, but anyway, it's been a great career.
The process of condemnations, these can be different types of structures, not just homes. It could be a business, an outbuilding, a barn, lots of things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Any kind of structure, commercial or anything like that. The only thing I think that's exempt is agricultural. There's an exempt for agricultural buildings, but any kind of residential, whether that be the home itself or outbuildings, accessory buildings, any structures like that, commercial, those can be posted unsafe, sure.
Mobile homes can be especially tricky because of different codes and different federal or state laws that guide that.
Yeah, and really manufactured homes, they can be condemned, obviously, if they're unsafe and everything, but if someone wants to repair those, we've had a couple of cases where they want to repair them, and the structure has structurally been damaged. Yeah. So a lot of the structural members of the manufactured home are damaged, and that they are actually governed by a different code. They're governed under the HUD, Housing Urban Development Code, which is a different. We've never adopted that. So the police jury doesn't. That's through the state fire marshal's office. Right. And people will look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them they have to go to the state fire marshal to get that, but that's what it is. That's what they have to do.
Your staff, David Robinson, is in charge of this. He's done a great job of handling this. It's got to be difficult because you are dealing with emotional situations sometimes with these properties or these homes, and the rights of the neighbors and the neighborhood against the rights of the landowner and the property owner. It's got to take a person with some politics skill and personal skills to handle that.
You really do. You got to be able to talk with people and communicate with them and have some empathy for them, and not just talking to them, but talking with them, and understanding their situation, because there are a lot of folks out there that are, hit hard times or something like that, and we're trying to, and this is the only thing that they have. Right. And we try to get them in a positive state so that they can continue on with their life and hopefully make their lives better. But it takes a special person.
The condemnations, if somebody sees a building or a property that is in disrepair, how do they report that to us?
There's a couple ways. They can either call us, at our office, 337-721-3600. They can go online to our website, go to our part of the page of the website,
Planning and Development.
Planning Department. Go to Condemnations. There is a form in there you can actually fill out and submit to us. Email us anything like that, we'll take it.
This is the Parish Podcast. We're visiting with the Division of Planning and Development Director, Wes Crain. We're talking about condemnations. We're going to move on to a different topic in just a moment. The Parish Podcast is a production of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, Communications and Media Department. Okay, let's talk a little bit about something that can arise from a condemnation, and that is an adjudicated property. And we take sometimes condemned properties and buildings or properties that have liens on them, different things like that, and we get them off of the tax rolls and back out into the public through selling these adjudicated properties. Tell us about adjudicated properties and how that works.
Just backing up a little bit on really kind of where all that started with the police jury auction, setting up a program to auction off these properties. When I started at the police jury back in '96, going out looking at properties and having to clean these properties up, we were filing liens on property, and those we would file multiple liens on property, and it just sort of kept repeating itself, and that was taxpayer dollars that we were having to go out there and mow the grass or clean up the property or do whatever, and it just didn't make any sense to me. And Jimmy and I, there's actually some state law that allows taxing authorities to create a program to sell these adjudicated property and get them back on the tax roll, and that's really what it was all about, is trying to clean up the properties, get those properties back on the tax roll so people are or maintaining them, and that we're getting the taxes paid on them. And so that's sort of the crux of what that program was all about. But we do have a program. We got all of the taxing entities throughout the parish. If you look at your tax bill, you see all the little there's a lot of taxing entities there. And we got those taxing entities to sign an agreement to allow us to handle those properties on their behalf and auction them off. And once we received the proceeds from those auctions and we closed on it, we would distribute those funds to them. Now, you might not get every dollar back that you get, but we were getting something, and plus we were getting it put back on the tax roll.
These properties, adjudicated properties, also this happens with the condemnations. Sometimes there's just not a good ownership record based on successions that never happened and things like that. And that's
absolutely.
How these properties end up getting in the disrepair that they're in, and then being,
no question. No question. A lot of these properties have never gone through a succession. And so you have multiple owners on there. And so you can't pinpoint who owns
even
it.
to send the notice to, right?
I mean, there may be a notice that you send it to that's listed in the tax roll, but under there may be, there's no telling, a bunch of errors. And so, and they all can't agree who to do clean up the property or whatever. And so, that's a huge issue that we have to deal with. But we've been fairly successful in getting these properties back, in commerce, so to speak. We try to have a sale, probably 3 to 4 times a year.
These are basically auctions?
They're auctions, we auction out. Now, I'm not the auctioneer like, Mr. Hal McMillan might be.
My mind went straight to Hal.
I know. And when I say auction, I'm not the guy. I handle the auction, but it's, I don't talk like him. So,
how can people participate?
So sure, if they go to our website and go to the adjudicated property portion of our website, we have a map, and it lists has a dot on the map of where those adjudicated properties are, and if they're interested in any of those, they can contact our office, Jennifer Caille in our office.
Thank you for mentioning Jennifer.
Yep, she handles those for us, and you can let her know which properties are those, the ones that you want. There is a fee that you have to pay to be able to auction, get on the auction list. It's like $75. Once you do that, then she'll guide you through that process, and when we have enough properties, then we schedule an auction. And we go through the auction process, and we take the highest bidder of those properties. And then, of course, the police jury has to give their blessing on those bidder and how much, the cost of that and everything. But once that's done, they have to get a mortgage and conveyance certificate from a company and that way we can look up the property owners, send out notice to all of them, see if we get any response back, and then if we don't, then we can set a date for closing, and get those property closed and get them back into commerce.
So with condemnations, that's just in the unincorporated areas, but we do handle some of the adjudicated properties in the municipalities.
Absolutely. Like I said, we've gotten agreements with all the taxing entities throughout the whole parish. That includes inside the municipalities. And so we handle anything inside, City of Sulphur, all of the municipalities that we have. We don't handle, the city of Lake Charles did not want us to sell those properties in the North Lake Charles redevelopment district.
Correct. Yeah.
They wanted to handle them themselves, and so that's what they do. They handle all those. So.
Again, you can visit the website for any information on all of this. Thank you, Wes, for being our guest here on the Parish Podcast.
Sure.
Flawless, not even close to government jargon, no acronyms at all used. We appreciate it.
No flags.
And no flags thrown in this one. This has been the Parish Podcast, a production of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury Communications and Media Department. On behalf of Wes Crain, the Division of Planning and Development Director, I'm Tom Hayford, thanking you for being with us, and stay with us for the next edition of the Parish Podcast. So long.